Coming off of part one and thinking that the expectations have a point where they end, by the time she gets the dude, she'll probably be done with the whole expectations thing and it'll be okay and you guys can now settle down and have a good family and shit. But no, like this shit just continues, and it's kind of interesting. Annoying, yes, but also interesting, which is why I kind of have to discuss this entire thing. But first of all, where are my manners? I should have started by saying hi the moment you guys started the podcast, so I'm just gonna do that right now. Welcome to Breakdown on My Side, your number one breakdown podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man who's just keeping at it, kinda like the way he continues to skip leg day. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Raw Zone. I like to keep it short, I like to keep it raw, minimal editing, no instrumentals, and it's me just going straight to the point. Now, I had started off part one with this entire expectations thing, and this kinda has to be concluded, but I've at least tried to put it in a position where by the time I leave it, you guys are at least having to think about the entire thing. Alright? But anyways, let me just sort of try and pick things up. Now, not too long ago, I was online and there was a clip which Lil Duval said something particularly interesting which has never really left my mind. And I don't know if it was a tweet or if he said it in an interview or both, but what he said, if I'm not paraphrasing it too much, is a lot of you women like to talk about how you want a man like Russell Wilson in your lives, and yet you have a lot of Russell Wilsons that are out there, but you guys aren't giving them a chance because they don't have Russell Wilson's money, which was a particularly interesting statement. Made a lot of sense and was very, very true, at least in my opinion, when you look at a lot of the babes out there today. Now, when you think about those statements, were they particularly wrong? Not really, but were they completely right? Not really as well. The Russell Wilson part, it does make a lot of sense because there's a lot of really nice, sweet guys that are out there. The problem is a number of them, actually a massive chunk of them, don't have cash like that, and thus they will end up being passed up by a lot of babes. And you'd think that the babes might probably think about it and be like, you know what, but we can give the guy a chance. It's not always about the money. Except that when you look at their selection criteria of financially stable, it does kind of raise a few eyebrows on whether they actually do care all that much about the money, even though they claim they don't. And normally, I usually say this statement, and I've been saying it, I think it was from either beginning 2020, if not towards the end of 2019. And I've always been saying that relationships are an investment. Whether you want to look at it positively or negatively, that's the reality of it. And every time I usually say this, especially in front of a bunch of babes, especially if they've asked me why I'm not dating, a lot of them will say, oh, you look at it just from the monetary perspective, and it's not just that. Oh, you can't be out here looking at gold diggers and assuming that that's all of us, blah, blah, blah. And normally whenever they say that, I'm like, yes, I can get what you're saying and you're probably right, except that you guys don't entirely understand. Because when you look at investing in a relationship, you're not just looking at the money side of it. There's the time side of it, there's the kind of affection side of it. Like there's a lot of investment that goes just beyond the cash when it comes to relationships, even though cash, at least today, is very, very important in that sort of investment. And normally after that, they usually tend to keep quiet after I say that. And I've always kind of run with that because it's been the truth, and it's been a pretty big part of the reason why we as guys usually do tend to be very, very selective with how it is we approach relationships, or at least most level-headed guys will take a very selective and very careful approach when it comes to selecting a partner, because that sort of investment actually takes quite a bit from a guy. But now, when you look at the whole talk that the babes will give of, oh, it's not just about the money, and you look at that kind of investment from a guy who doesn't really have cash like that, or the guy that doesn't feel that he has cash like that, then it actually starts to interfere a little bit with a guy's capability to look at the expectations of a babe or the desires of a babe and be like, you know what, I'd want to date this babe, I'd actually want to make her happy in the way that she wants to be made happy. And you see that very, very openly when you look at something like money. Of course, guy doesn't have money like that, or he doesn't think he has money like that. So you can try and push that one aside. Look at something like time. Unlike something like care and affection, which obviously can be given in almost unconditional amounts, you look at something like time. Time is actually very valuable to a guy. Now, if you're making good money, your time is valuable. If you're not making good money, your time is still valuable, because every single second, or at least a lot of the time that you might be spending with your partner, considering that you're not making money like that, you would probably be better off trying to push it towards making more money so that you'd feel more financially comfortable to be with someone. You get it? So it actually does kind of affect us guys when we look at the expectations that are there, and especially since there's like financial implications to it, and we look at it and we just don't feel like we properly match up. And it's not like the babes are making it any easier for us guys, but at the same time, even other guys that may be older, they may be able to tell us a little bit different, aren't making it easier as well. So us guys are getting more expectations piled on us. And I'll even give you proof for this, because I actually came backed up with some. So not too long after Valentine's, there was the influencer known as Shelly, Sophisticated Rhythm, or just Shelly for some of you that know her, who posted up on her stories about how she had gone to get flowers. All right, I'm just going to read it. It says, and I quote, "Had gone to get blah blah some flowers the other day for a cadet. I met the owner of blah blah store, and she told me stories of how babes are being spoiled rotten in this Nairobi. And you're with a guy who tells you he doesn't believe in Valentine's Day? T for tough." End quote. Now, this is a babe who is pretty much telling other babes that there's other babes that are being treated better. All right, so if your guy isn't treating you like this, then you're probably not getting it all that well. All right, so now this puts pressure on the babe, or at least this makes the babe feel like she has some level of peer pressure, which she ends up unloading onto the guy by expecting something because a bunch of other babes expect that. And you can say that this shouldn't bother a guy, but it actually does. And like I said, it's not like the guys online who talk about this are also making it any easier. Hell, they're probably making it harder for a lot of us dudes. And to give you a bit of context, here is what Andrew Kibe says regarding the entire topic.
When you have nothing as a man, you are nothing. All you have are hopes and dreams in your head. When you have nothing, you are nothing. You should not be allowed to date. Every time even the DCI should see you, even talking to a woman, they need to get out their whips. Even talking to a woman, even asking for directions, they need to be, what are you doing talking to a woman? Every time you send a text, one of those stupid texts, hey, you need to be electrocuted. Hey! Oh, sorry. Because you're stupid. What are you doing trying to play in the big boys league? Because it's an abomination for a poor man to be pouring anything anywhere. Even in a sink, you should be, where? What are you doing? Go back to building yourself.
And that's Exhibit A. Now, let me read for you something that was posted up on Twitter, but also ended up on IG. Now, a guy says, and I quote, "I make over 3 times what my girl makes and she pays 0 bills. In the 10 months we've dated, she's paid off her student loans, beefed up her emergency funds, and improved her credit score. I love that for her. What if she leaves you? Door is wide open. I was raised to always leave places, jobs, and people in better shape than when I first met them, so if she did leave, I'll be perfectly fine. I add value to others because it's who I am, not because I want or expect something in return." End quote. Now, as a couple of guys were busy commenting on this entire thing, one guy came out and said, and I quote, "I mean, I understand all that as a man shit. I understand the rules should not be reversed, but how would you perceive a man who actually wakes up and does his best to take care of his family despite not being financially fortunate? Is he less of a man? I'm confused here." End quote. To which this same guy replies and says, and I quote, "If he's not financially fortunate, is he truly doing his best to take care of his family?" And then goes on to say, "As a man, your number one priority on this planet is to get money and add value to other people, regardless of your relationship status. Notice I never gave a dollar amount. Being financially fortunate to me means you're able to take care of others with whatever it is that you make." End quote. Now, you look at all of this, and you're a young guy, you're in your early, maybe even late 20s, you're literally just trying to figure out your finances and your life and try and put some structure around it, and then there's someone busy telling you that there's babes out here and you should be out there dating. Now, whether you are broke or you think you're broke, do you really think that these guys are going to be very eager to go out there into the market and actually try and pull themselves a babe? Do you really think that guys are going to be that eager and be like, I wouldn't mind doing all of this? And then on top of that, there's a bunch of babes that are busy giving, engagement ring math, where they're like, an engagement ring is worth about 3 months worth of your salary. You think about it, if there's a guy that is probably making, say, enough money whereby they can cater for all of their costs and manage to save about 30% of their income, that probably makes sense, because it would take them somewhere about 10 months, if not a little bit more, to make up that money and buy the ring. If it's someone that can save 20%, then it'll probably be about a year and some months, if not a year and a half. But even then, even though you are looking at 10%, first of all, how many guys do you think can manage to save up that amount just for a ring? And secondly, you save up all of that money and then you want us to get a ring? Like, no investment, no down payments on any mortgage, no nothing. A ring. You really want us to spend that kind of money on a ring? You kind of have to think about it for a second and just, is it really worth it though? Is it worth going through all of these hoops, jumping through all of these hurdles just to get over these expectations, just to get a babe right now? Wouldn't it be smarter to wait a little bit longer, give yourself a little bit more time to rack up cash and invest and build your portfolios and shit? Hopefully you should be able to make that money. Then you go for a younger babe. Is it just that we're viewed for our money or our means, and that should be the only thing that we look at? Like, honestly, at the end of the day, we kind of need to consider some of these thoughts, because if we don't, there's a lot of guys that are going to shy away from dating, as they already have, because they simply just don't think they match up to the babes and what it is that the babes want. And to conclude all of this, I don't think every single babe wants every single thing that's said out online about what it is that they expect from guys. Hell, some of them might not even want 10% of that shit. But guess what? The people that are talking, the babes that are talking, this is what they're saying. And guess what? The dudes will observe and listen, and they'll try and do some shit to kind of match up. Or else, they'll probably just go and impregnate some babe and hopefully co-parent, which ends up with the current situation whereby the idea of the structured family nowadays is co-parenting. Which is why I personally believe that if we don't come together and have a conversation around these expectations of ours that we have at some point very soon, a lot of us are going to be looking back at this time about 20 years from now, and they're going to be very pissed off, and they're going to conclude that we actually fucked up about 2 generations worth of people. But then again, I might be wrong about this entire thing, so I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, on Facebook. It is at Breaktime on Westside, on Twitter. It is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.